All right, guys, one moment. I'm going to make sure we do, in fact, go live. Here we go. Okay, it says streaming. Hopefully you don't have a producer, and the producer is me. So look at us. All right, there it is. There's the notification, guys. I kid you not. We have been talking to absolutely no one for the last 8 minutes, and we said some really wonderful, beautiful things, but it was a good dry run for the rest of this live stream. So, guys, welcome. Thank you for joining us. We're going to break down the injury report, or excuse me, the inactives list, talk a little bit about that. I think we'll just cut straight to that because that's the most interesting part. Why not? Pete, take it away for us.
And as you said last time, there are two notable names on here.
Yes.
So this is now Ryan Grant is inactive. He's been inactive every game since the Packers picked him up. Kevin King is inactive. He's got a shoulder injury. Dexter Williams inactive. Tony Brown, who would probably replace King, is inactive. Kadar Holman's been inactive almost every week. Adam Pankey and Yash Niemans.
All right, so interesting list there. Obviously, Kevin King and Tony Brown stand out. They were listed as questionable on the injury report Friday heading into today's game, I should say. Kevin King with a shoulder injury, Tony Brown with a heel injury. Brown practiced all week. He was a full participant. Kevin King was limited on Wednesday and Thursday. He was upgraded to a full participant on Friday. In the history of Matt LaFleur's coaching so far this year and how he's structured his injury report, typically questionable means active.
Well, also, as you said, full participant, that usually suggests they're going to play, so that is surprising. I guess if I were the Packers, we don't know the extent of the injury, but this has been a chronic thing. The shoulder has been for King. He's had that going back to college, so that could be a concern of whether that's going to be a problem for the rest of the season.
Right, so you look at the cornerbacks depth chart without King and Tony Brown. Who's going to slide up in there? I mean, Kadar Holman's also out, so you've got guys left like Tramon Williams, Jair Alexander. Those two guys obviously stand out at the top, but then what about Josh Jackson, who's been practicing mostly at safety? I'd imagine he gets a bit of a look today at cornerback.
At least in the dime, Sullivan's been playing both deep safety and he's been playing in the dime as a slot corner. So maybe it's Williams starts on the outside and Sullivan's the inside corner. Maybe Jackson's the inside corner in the nickel. One of those two is going to be seeing a lot more snaps than they have been up to now.
Absolutely. Definitely an interesting thing to keep an eye on there, guys, see how their health progresses. It's been a mostly healthy team this season.
Remarkably healthy. This is having been through 25 or whatever it is of these, this is got to be one of the 2 or 3 healthiest seasons of the Packers that I've covered.
Does Matt LaFleur look at this game today against Washington and say, okay, we know the quality of this opponent. We don't want to put our 2 cornerbacks who are maybe hurting a little bit. We don't want to put them out there and try to get them healthy for the rest of the season.
I wonder about that. That's when you get beat sometimes if you take wins for granted. So I'd be cautious about that if I were them. I would think if, this isn't the middle of the season, this isn't Devontae Adams where you're going to be cautious. I would think if they were able to play, they'd have been active today.
I would agree with you too. Hypothetical question, who knows exactly what happens.
Hey, you never know what they're thinking, and both possibilities are plausible.
Absolutely. Also worth noting, Ryan Grant, yet again, inactive. The wide receiver, it's interesting to me that they wouldn't at least give him a look in one of these games anytime soon, considering some of the inconsistencies they've been having at receiver.
I can remember seasons like there was an offensive lineman, Marco Rivera, when he was a rookie. He didn't, I don't think he dressed for any games. But that was a developmental player who they didn't want to risk. If they cut him and put him on the practice squad, somebody might pick him up. Grant's not a developmental player. He's been in the league several years. So I'm not sure what the thinking is there, other than maybe he's just their insurance in case they have an injury. Although I thought there was somebody on the practice squad, Darius Shepard, who would have been that guy.
Interesting. All right, guys, let's go over to the Facebook page. Good morning to Tim. Hi to Nibs in England. He says, run, then run some more. The Packers need to establish the run game early, as they always need to. It's something that Matt LaFleur has stressed a lot in his career so far as the head coach of the Green Bay Packers, but he hasn't always been so great at doing it.
No, and and last week there was a lot about the run game, but I personally, I don't know what you thought, I really didn't see that as an issue because they moved the ball up and down the field with the pass. They scored 31 points. So I didn't see that as an issue last week, but it's still something they need to do well over the course of the next 4 weeks and then playoffs too.
Just in general, getting Aaron Jones involved in this offense is a huge priority for the Packers, and it hasn't been something they've been able to do successfully over the last couple of games, whether it's in the run or in the pass. He needs to get his hands on the ball.
Yeah, he's their best guy, and when he's got the ball in open space, good things happen for the Packers.
Yes, an Aaron Jones game is much needed. Eric Baranchik, friend of the show, says, good thing they have Tremont. Yeah, I mean, Tremont Williams is a huge player.
That guy just
huge piece of this
He blows
game.
my mind that
he's
36 playing. Corner's one of the young running back's probably the youngest position in the league, but corner's right up there too. And the fact that guy is still playing pretty decent cornerback at age 36, it just blows my mind.
Speaking of mind-blowing players, Adrian Peterson on the other side of the ball, running back, is also still posting pretty good numbers for his team, and he will be out on the field, two-headed monster of their running attack.
Yeah, we'll see a lot. I'm sure we'll see a lot of them. Him and Geis, yeah.
Yep, very good. We've got Kevin in the comments saying that Rashawn Gary is a bust. You are not the first person to comment that on this live stream, and you won't be the last, I'm sure.
No, you won't. Now, a little early to say for sure bust. The bad sign is it just doesn't seem like he's improved much this season. He looks like he's the same pass rusher as early, one-trick pony, all power. Now, guys, the light goes on for guys sometimes in their second season. Every once in a while, even into it might take till their third, but you would have thought they would be getting more out of him now than they've gotten up to this point.
Yeah, Jim Ozarski wrote a piece on Rashawn Gary over on PackersNews.com if you'd like to read a little bit more about what Rashawn Gary had to say, really about the criticism that he's faced as well. But it certainly is interesting with Gary, and we'll see how it pans out, but it is kind of a double-edged sword, I guess you could say, and Mike Pettin acknowledged that this week as well, that to earn more snaps, he needs to play better, but if he doesn't have the snaps to perform, then how is he going to do that in the first place?
Yeah, and if he were doing better, like Fackrell oftentimes is the third rusher when they go with three outside linebackers and dime, so he hasn't even passed him up, and he gets snaps in practice, so there's opportunities there. So that that was the MO on him coming out, was ton of talent, production wasn't there, so he was a little bit of a boomer bust pick, and I would guess next year by this time we'll have a pretty decent feel for the trajectory of his career.
Dick wants to know, is the bend but don't break defense just what Mike Pettin has designed into the game plan now? Is it what he's intending to happen? I can't imagine he wants to give up a lot of yards and big chunk plays that he has been. But that being said, the defense has been performing very well in the red zone.
They have.
If you had to choose one, I imagine you want to choose don't give up points in the red zone. However, you don't want them to get there in the first place.
Yeah, points. The game is about points in the end. He brought up an interesting point on Thursday when the coordinators did their press conferences, where he said, he talked about all those things, how it is about points, how the red zone defense is important. But he said, it's not the best thing when you're giving up all those yards and letting the other team control the ball, because they want Aaron Rodgers on the field as much as possible. And so when teams are rattling off 10-play drives and burning 6 minutes off the clock, that's time that Rodgers isn't on the field. So they do need to get off the field quicker. We'll see if they can peak at the end of the year, but it's been they're better than last year, but you wouldn't call them a good defense, though.
For sure. Speaking of the defense, sort of, Bill says he hopes that the Packers aren't looking past this game. I think that's very important, and I know our predictions might say one thing, but I also predicted that the San Francisco game was going to be very close, and we all know how that turned out. The Packers should absolutely not look past this game. You look at the Redskins and their offense and what they do well, and that's running the ball. Yep. And what do the Packers not do so well?
That's how you beat this team, yeah.
Defending the run.
And even last week against the Giants, it was a big score. Packers won going away, 31-13. Yes, 31-13. But it was still a one-score game at the very start of the fourth quarter. So, a lot of times when games are blowout scores in the NFL, they're good games for 3.5 quarters.
Yeah, Todd said Lazard could have a big day. He has been a big part of this Packers offense, and his playing time has gone up. His snaps have increased on offense. It's really impressive to see him
You consider
blossom.
him the number 2 now?
I hate to use the numbers because I don't think that's what this offense is all about and what Matt LaFleur really intends his receiving core to look like. But at this rate, after last week, oh, absolutely, he's certainly standing out as the number 2.
And the quarterback trusts him, which seems to matter in this league, so he'll throw it to him.
Yeah, and what's been surprising has been the lack of improvement from Marquez Valdez-Scantling, who you wrote about just the other day. It's been a puzzling season for him. We haven't seen much improvement. You wonder how much of it is tied to his injury that he sustained earlier this season. But that being said, he's been healthy enough to play in these games.
Yeah, and he hasn't been on the injury report for 2 or 3 games now, and he told me he's pretty close to full strength now, so he's got a month to show what he's got and what he's learned this season.
Tommy wants to know if it's time to stick Jair Alexander back there on returns. They just picked up a new return guy, Tyler Irvin, who I think if they picked him up, I think they're going to play him today back there at return. With Jair, how would you diagnose that? Is he too important to put back there?
That's my thinking. Now, there's teams that have used really good players back there. I mean, Deion Sanders returned punts for a long time, and he was best corner ever, best cover guy ever. So, I mean, you can make an argument, and you're giving up free yards when you don't return the ball or you have bad returners. But I'd be really hesitant because he is so important to their defense at corner. Corner's a premium position. I wouldn't do it.
No. That being said, Teron Williams is the backup punt returner, so he's pretty important too. But he's the backup,
and that's where 36 years old does show up, is on the punt returns. He catches it well, but I don't think he's a threat to take it to the house like he used to be when he was young. He had a couple touchdown returns.
The Packers don't even need anyone to take it to the house. They just need someone to take it 5 yards.
Yeah.
That's all.
Prediction. Do you think they'll finish in the negative this season?
Yes, in the negative this season or after? I thought you were going to go as far to say this game.
No. For the season, because what are they, -8 right now? -8 or 9?
That would be a mind-blowing number.
It'd be incredible.
I really don't. I don't know.
It's
they
a
very well
possibility.
could.
Now,
Absolutely.
If he rips off a 40-yard return, then they're in the clear. But yeah.
Oh man, Sean Benenga would love to see that. Todd says, please target Jace Sternberger once. Sternberger is active, so hey, 4 tight ends active.
Yep.
Once again, last week we really didn't see Jace Sternberger play much on offense, more of a special teams guy.
Yep.
I didn't notice him blocking as much as he did in his debut. I don't know how many snaps exactly he had last week, but you wonder, is he going to get the opportunity to be a target for Aaron Rodgers anytime soon?
We do wonder that, and Jimmy Graham's snaps were down last week. We'll see if that trend continues.
Yeah. All right, guys, let's see. Pete, prediction, what was your prediction?
I went 34-17, the Green Bay Packers.
Okay. And I think I was remarkably similar to you. I was definitely 34 for the Packers, and I think I was 18 for Washington.
And I think Ryan Wood was 35,
we were all
17 or 18. Yeah. And Jim Ozarski, he had a big differential too.
I wish I could say it was my very informed, brilliant brain that made that prediction, but sometimes you just go with your gut.
Yeah, not sometimes.
Most of the time, that's just how these predictions work, but you'd expect the Packers to win today. They have a good opportunity ahead of them for the rest of the season. Like you said, Chicago is looking like a bit of more of a formidable force now that Mitch Trubisky had a good game under his belt.
It's 3 in a row for him, I think, now where he's played okay.
Yeah.
They did lose Roquan Smith, one of their best players on defense, so that was a big blow last week.
Yes, and they've got Minnesota, which will surely be a good game.
Yep.
And then they're off to Detroit, which Detroit's not looking so good, but...
Yeah, it looks like Stafford's probably out for the year. But if you're looking at it for playoff seeding, the seeding and all that, you could call this a must-win for the Packers in that context, because you just can't lose to a bad team
at home.
If you have a shot at a high seed. You're killing yourself to lose to a team like this.
All right, absolutely, Pete. Thank you for joining me. It's always
thank you
pleasure.
for having me.
Oh yes, thank you for joining my show, Pete.
It's an honor and a privilege. No, it's an honor and a privilege.
Oh, thank you.
The people come to see you. There's no question about that.
Yes, this is true. They love hearing from you too, Pete. And thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. We'll be back after the game to wrap it up and take your questions as always. Make sure you're checking out PackersNews.com for all of your Packers coverage. Follow us on all of our social media channels. We're going to go run inside.